In today's podcast interview, I interview a dear friend, Brianna Lofquist. We talk about all things metabolic health. We talk about energy. We talk about frequencies. We talk about rebalancing frequencies so we can harmonize our health, have a balanced nervous system, and promote really, really deep healing, which is what I know you are seeking. This interview helps you in understanding how energy plays a huge role, and specifically emotional energy, how it plays such a huge role in your health, and how releasing energy that isn't serving you, this emotional blockage that isn't serving you anymore, can help you have amazing metabolic breakthroughs. It can transform your body physically, it can transform your emotional health, and it can also create transformations in how you show up in the world to be in service of your family and your community. I would always enjoy my conversations with Brianna because we talk about topics that I don't get to talk about with very many people. And I know that you're going to find what she shares really insightful and really impactful for you personally. You'll be able to connect with Brianna. I'll drop a link in the description so you can learn more about her practice and connect with her to see if she can help you on that journey towards better metabolic health, but also just better health in general using the Living Light Metabolic Program. As always, if you're enjoying these conversations, please like, comment, and subscribe, and certainly share this information with those in need. Until next time, enjoy the interview. Hi, Brianna. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me today.
Well, I know this conversation has been a long time in the making. I'm really excited to dive right in. And what we're going to be covering today might be new and unfamiliar to people, because most of us, when we think of health, we think of either medications. If you think of, maybe most people don't, but some people might think medications to try to restore their health or rebalance their health. And we might think supplements as the alternative, or herbs, or other kind of external remedies. Why do you think we've normalized that as a society, that we're always looking outside of us for the answer?
I feel like it does come down to your upbringing to a point. I know my mom brought me to the doctor for all the issues, and you don't know what you don't know. And you get in that pattern of conditioning of I need to go see someone to help me fix something, whether that be a doctor or a natural health practitioner or who have it, but then they usually give you something, right? So whether that be a medication or a supplement, it's something external to fix an internal problem, which isn't always the answer because sometimes that just masks the symptoms that are, all those red flags that are waving. That pill, whether it's a supplement or a med, might just push all those down. And that's actually our body's internal way of communicating with us of, hey, there's a problem. So we then get out of following our intuition and instead just trust something from the outside to help fix the inside, which unfortunately doesn't usually work very well.
Yeah, I think that's a very important, line in the sand, or just an idea for people to wrap their heads around in terms of their personal philosophy and belief system when it comes to health. Because I feel like the more I do this, the longer I do this for, the more I believe in the body's own ability to heal than anything else that I give people outside of it, so to speak. And there must be a moment in your life where there was like a come to Jesus moment, or a wake up call, or something like that that happened. I'm curious if that's the case for you or not.
Yeah, I actually had a couple different moments in my practice for sure. I do muscle testing in my practice, and I found that all of my clients hit this wall at the same time. I'm like, what is going on? And at that point, emotional release was a part of practice. It had to come in for a different visit. It wasn't all intertwined together, and no one had to touch their emotions. So I started just like adding it on. And there was one client specifically, I'm like, hey, I think you need a little emotional work to kind of, get over this wall and break through. And she's like, no, I don't need any emotional work. I said, well, can I just work on you? And she's like, sure. I released one emotion and she started sobbing. And I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. So there is an emotional component to health as well. And then in myself and in my personal family, when we were all really sick with mold, there was a lot of negative energy just associated with that entire situation that I also had to break free of that negative energy from the mold too. Even in the Bible, they say burn your house down, right? Like burn it all down to the ground. There's that energy that needs to be released as well. So I got to do that with my own family, and that's when we really truly started healing.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing. So, if it isn't the pills per se that's solving the actual problem, what is like what you kind of touched on it that emotions are at the root cause, but what's the root cause of that? I guess we can keep pulling that string, right?
Right. Well, we want to work with the body instead of against it. So once you're able to, find your intuition again, really tap into that, which it does, it is a process to find your intuition again and to learn how to use it. Then you are able to peel back those layers, whether it be, generational trauma. Maybe there is a lot of family trauma that needs to be released. Maybe there is in your environment, there's some negative energy in the environment that needs to be released. Or maybe you've done all the cleanses and the Lyme killing and all the parasite killing under the sun, but you still are sick. So there's probably some energetic ties there that need to be released from that. So going back to the basics, calming the nervous system, that's step number one, because that nervous system, for some reason, gets really forgotten about. And we need to make sure that we can shift that body into a resting state to be able to heal and repair. So that's step number one in anything that I do is calming that nervous system down first, because we got to get back in sync.
Yeah, most people are sympathetic dominant, right? And they're not even being given a fair chance to heal and repair.
Right.
I'm curious, like if somebody comes to see you, how would it be different than, let's say, seeing their typical family doctor and then even their traditional, let's call it functional medicine practitioner?
Well, I'm going to do a personalized consult with you to see what is going on for you specifically. So there might be emotional imbalances, from surgeries, from past trauma, and really nourishing the body because a lot of people think of nourishment as just food when nourishment is actually making sure you get enough sunlight, making sure you're grounding enough, get your circadian rhythm back in balance, and nourish your body in multiple ways more than just food.
Yeah, I think we've unfortunately been reduced to think that our only source of nourishment is food. And when we change our food source so dramatically in the last, few decades or even the last 100 years or so, you almost wonder how people are nourished at all.
Right.
There's got to be more to it because if we treated our cars the way we treat our bodies, we'd all be stuck on the side of the road. So there's got
Yeah.
to be nourishment and energy, so to speak, coming from multiple other sources to keep us alive and still functioning. Because we can abuse our bodies, or people can abuse their bodies for decades before they start breaking down. So there's got to be some invisible force that's keeping us alive that we either are without even our awareness tapped into. But
Mhm.
if we could, with awareness, tap into it, I can only imagine the type of healing that takes place for people.
Yeah, manifestation is real. And I actually saw this with someone this week is she was reaching out to me because she's like, I don't have a lot of money. I'm having a hard time. I said, find $100 bill and touch it every day. She's like, I don't have $100 bill. I said, okay, you need to manifest $100 bill. It was within 2 days. She sent me a picture. She's like, look what I won. And she won $100 bill. I said, well, now you get to touch it every day and manifest more money. So thinking about if you can do that, what could you do with your health? If you can manifest health, and manifest money, you are, of everyone else, so to speak, because not a lot of people are truly manifesting a picture of their perfect health. We oftentimes just get used to, feeling like garbage, which is
Mm.
unfortunate. You might not even realize you feel that way. But once you feel better, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I live that way for so long?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like looking at old YouTube videos of yourself or something, right? It's like, what
Yeah.
was I thinking? But
Yeah. For old pictures, you're like, oh my gosh.
it's all part of the journey, right? Of
It is.
discovering who we are and moving through it. Sometimes we have to move through some of the stuff that um we need to get to where we want to get to.
Oh, for sure.
And sometimes people's rock bottom is possibly the best thing that happened to them, right? Because then they're vulnerable and willing to receive help and guidance, and they could look back and be like, "Oh my God, like look how far I've come." So
Yeah.
I never rob people of their rock bottom. I think we all kind of deserve it in some way, only because not because we deserve the pain and suffering, but we deserve the lessons so that we can move through them and then come out on the other side with a cool story to tell people.
Yeah, I can tell you my rock bottom helped me learn way more than I ever would have without it. So I am thankful for that as well.
Yeah, you talked about intuition a little bit earlier. How does one know if they're dialed into their intuition or not? Is there signs that they can look for, or clues that they can tap into that might tell them, hey, my intuition's pretty dialed in, or it's not, and I need to find it again.
Well, you can think of it, like the butterfly feeling you get in your stomach. Some people get that. Maybe it's when they see a loved one. Maybe it's when they're excited about something, but that's a very low level of intuition that you could tap into. There are people, I am one, I feel things. So I sense things and I feel things in a way, whereas my daughter, on the other hand, she sees things. So we all have different gifts of intuition. So you almost have to figure out your gift first and then tap into it more from there. But you do learn over time. I've had clients tell me this. They're like, maybe they're on a supplement plan with me and they're like, I just stopped taking that one a few days ago because I felt like I didn't need it anymore. And I muscle test them and I'm like, no, you don't. So you get to a point where you learn to trust yourself. And I think that's the biggest step is you have to learn to trust and listen to yourself to get back to that intuition.
Yeah, my intuition, for the most part, has always served me well. And it's been right even when I don't care to admit it, because sometimes we're just in our heads, we're so sure we're doing the right thing, or
Yeah.
sometimes even forcing something to happen because we think it's the way to our salvation, but it may not be. And our, hindsight's 2020, so we can connect the dots looking backwards to see where we listened to our intuition and where we didn't. But I'm
Yeah.
curious how this ties into metabolic health, all of this, like energetic imbalances, emotional stress, our environment. How have you find that ties into metabolic health, which is, you know, I know that's one of the reasons people come to see you, because that's what they think is off with them. But once you start digging a little bit deeper, you start seeing it's these other things. But maybe you can paint that picture and help create a bridge between uh, those imbalances and how it shows up in our metabolic function.
So I see a lot of moms that are just exhausted, yelling at their kids. I'd say that was one of my number one things, as I had a very short fuse with my children. It's easy to do. Not sleeping, not eating well, not nourishing their bodies. And they usually are off in their metabolic health. So we start with the reset because that focuses on going back to the basics, right? So we're going to go back to the basics and we're going to put mom first. So mom needs to be first in order to care for everybody else. So we're nourishing her with food, we're nourishing her with some movement, we're nourishing her with the support in the community that she needs to be able to hold it together for everybody else. So then in throughout that process, we do some one-on-one consults and we have weekly calls where we do dive deeper into the emotional and energetic aspects of it. So for myself, with some of the family issues that I grew up with, I didn't want my children to have to deal with those. So we can have the family trauma, so to speak, that needs to be released. So you're not having those same patterns be repeated over time. And by doing the work on the moms, the kids actually benefit too, because then they're not having to do the work when they grow up. We're breaking that tie so the kids can get better as well. And I saw this with my own children too, going through emotional and the metabolic reset, that if I worked on myself and I took care of myself, magically my kids just like behaved better. And I'm like, what the heck? They're half me. So they feel that energy. So if you can bring your energy up, raise their vibration, your kids just automatically follow because they're half you and they feel that. Kids are little energy magnets and they put out what you feed them, right? So whether that be food or whether that be energy, they are going to be a result of that as well.
Yeah, it's a very important observation when you're going through a health program or a metabolic transformation, or whatever transformation you're going through. When your health improves, the people around you, their health, their energy, their presence, their emotional state, like all of those things improve. And you made an excellent point that your children are half you. And if you're the mom in this scenario, they get 100% of your mitochondrial DNA. So as your mitochondrial function changes when you're improving metabolic function, there's going to be some shifts in them taking place. And odds are, if you're a mom, what's good for your mitochondria is going to be good for your children's mitochondria. So if you do things and it gives you more energy, more emotional stability, more hormonal stability, well, that's going to be a very easy win for your children as well, especially if they live in the same house as you.
Yes, and then you're teaching them the tips and tricks to be healthy for life too. So you're teaching them the importance of going outside, the importance of taking a deep breath. That was a big thing that I see is my trick was I'd tell all the kids if we were just having a chaotic day, I'm like, everyone sit down. We'd all just sit down and we'd take a few breaths, and that would change the energy of the entire house. We didn't have to sage, we didn't do oils, we didn't do anything else. We took a few breaths together. And it's amazing how just breathing can shift you into that parasympathetic resting state. Not only you, but your kids too. So by teaching those coping mechanisms versus other coping mechanisms that might not be as healthy, they're going to be better off in the long run too.
Yeah, our emotional stability and health is so vital, especially when we're on a physical journey, right? The emotions are kind of like the software, so to speak, and the physical body's the hardware. Um, Maybe tell me how that all ties in. So how do our emotions and our weight connect? How do our emotions and our energy connect, and just our overall well-being?
So emotions can be stored anywhere in the body, and it's common for them to be stored in fat cells as well. Our body is really smart, so it pushes toxins, it pushes emotions, it pushes things into fat cells because it's like, I don't want it next to those vital organs. We're just going to push it out in the fat. And I found this vividly with one of my clients in the past is she was, eating all the right things and she was doing the supplements, she was doing the work. Well, we hadn't touched any emotions in her yet. And we did one emotional release session and she lost 8 pounds in a week. And that's when I was like, holy smokes, like emotions are physical weight. So tying that into releasing that, emotional weight along with the physical weight, you're going to release that physical weight easier and faster when you release the emotions too. And your body can just, let that all go at the same time.
Yeah, emotions are energy in motion, right?
Mhm.
And and if we think about E equals MC squared, right? This energy that we're holding on to has a corresponding mass that's associated to it. So even if we look at this from a mathematical standpoint, it makes sense, right? That these emotions and energy that we're holding on to, this charge that we have, has mass. And it's not uncommon, especially for women, for them to experience, or even men, for them to experience an inflection point in their weight when something stressful happens to them. It could be a stressful time in their life or a stressful event in their life that triggers certain behaviors. I learned something from Dr. Demartini that I thought was really like powerful. I was just thinking about it this morning, and it ties into our conversation. And that is that under periods of stress or during periods of stress, the response to food consumption can indicate to us if we are running away from something or if we are infatuated with something we don't believe we're worthy of or can have. So if you experience stress and stress causes you to overeat, then that clues you in into what am I infatuated with that I believe I cannot have or don't deserve to have. And we're essentially compensating by consuming more food because it's easy for us to get that and feel in control. If we've experienced something stressful and we retract from food, right? Because some people listening to this might experience stress and they don't feel like eating anything,
Mhm.
and they don't have an appetite. It could be because the stress is caused by the true cause of the stress is caused by something that they fear that they're trying to avoid. So they, in a way, avoid eating as well. So just
Wow.
something to unpack and pay attention to when we're experiencing stress. Am I consuming? And if I am, then emotional eating. And if I am, then what do I want that I can't have or don't believe I can have or am not worth it? And
Mhm.
if I'm avoiding food, what else am I avoiding? Maybe it's sending the email, maybe it's having that conversation you need to have, maybe it's speaking up for yourself. Whatever it is, it allows you to ask the right questions based on the, kind of the subtle response to the stressor itself.
Oh, I love that. And that's something too, where if a woman say is like craving chocolate or craving something, we'll kind of dive into that. And sometimes I pull out the affirmations and I'll muscle test and see which one are they lacking in, which one do they need more of, and release some energy towards that. So that definitely ties in there. I love that.
Awesome. So, you run a metabolic program called Living Light, just like we do,
Yeah.
and you've seen amazing results and transformations with your clients. You add a layer of emotional work and really getting to the underlying, subtle mechanisms that might be causing people to be stuck. I'd love to know, maybe you can share what kind of results are you seeing with your clients as they work with you?
Well, knock on wood, I haven't had anyone it hasn't worked for yet. So that's been amazing because it is giving you the tools to for everything that you need, right? And that's what I love about it. It's turnkey. Here's what you have to do. It's not super hard. It's very simple. It's very doable for moms and just being able to relieve that stress. And one thing that I noticed especially was shifting into that parasympathetic state. You don't know what parasympathetic feels like until you've been there. And
Hmm.
I had never been there myself, even in this wellness world for years. I had never been in a parasympathetic state. And it was probably 2 weeks in the reset. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm calm, but I can still like get stuff done. And I didn't know that was possible. And even my husband was like, you're really chill. I'm like, this is so not like me. Like I'm type A and I just get everything done and go, go, go. And this is different. And that's what I love about it is a different approach and it is something that you've probably never tried before because it's not like anything else out there.
Yeah, there's when you go canoeing, there's an old adage, and thank you for sharing, by the way. But there's this saying that kind of resonates with what you're sharing, and that is, slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Mm.
So we
Yeah,
kind of think that if we want to get somewhere quicker, that we have to work harder or push harder or work more. And sometimes that's going to be true. But most of the time, it's we need to slow down.
hmm,
And it can be smooth and fast. In fact, it's necessary for you to go fast. It's got to be smooth.
hmm,
And when we have people go through the reset, the thing that a lot of them report back to us is exactly what you shared, which is, oh my God, I feel so calm. I feel centered.
hmm.
And also feel like I'm way more productive and getting a lot more stuff done than what I used to because everything's working better, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the brain working better, but the body's working better, the hormones are working better, the,
Hmm.
the ability, the capacity to get something done and also recover from it once you're done. I mean, everything's firing on all cylinders. And many people, like you said, haven't experienced that either in a really long time, or maybe they did as a child, but couldn't capture what that feels like.
Right.
And now as an adult, they get to experience that. And it really is like hitting the reset button on so many fronts, right? Not just
Yeah.
your energy, but your sleep quality, your mental health, emotional regulation, like all of those things start improving. And it's awesome when spouses notice that as well, not just, how you might look in your clothing or the physical appearance, but, you know, how you show up when the lights are off, so to speak, right? Or
Right.
over the phone or talking to your children, right? Communication, all those things improve when we feel better. We make better decisions when we feel better, and the people around us feel better when we feel better too.
And you emit more light. You have more joy and more energy around you. And I have to laugh. I don't have the picture right next to me, but my daughter drew a picture of me and there's little rays coming off of it. So it really makes you wonder what she sees. And I'm like, what's around this? She's like, I don't know. I said, is it light? She's like, it's just like that. I'm like, okay. And she's the one that sees things. So I'm like, huh, I love that. So kids sense that too. And if we are radiating more physical light. We're radiating more joy, more happiness, more love, more gratitude. And that changes the overall presence of every aspect of your life. And I saw this especially with one of my clients. She had worked in a job for over 10 years that she hated. She didn't like the people she worked with. She worked in an office under fluorescent lights. There were no windows. She was like, I'm just miserable. I said, apply for a different job. She's like, okay, I'm going to do that. And she got a different job in the middle of her reset. She got a different job. She now works less, makes more, and goes outside. Loves it. So you are not only just up leveling your health, you're up leveling so many other aspects of your life. and you change your entire family dynamic and improve it. Even if the mom is the only one doing the reset, she's usually the one cooking for everyone else. They're getting the benefits too.
Mm. We've talked about the reset, and people are probably listening to this wondering what the heck is the reset? Like, maybe you could walk us through that. Maybe from the very moment somebody says, "Hey, I'm interested," what are the steps that they would go through, and perhaps you could even highlight how this is different than anything they've ever done before.
So the first step would be to book a discovery call. So we'd go through and we'd see what specific issues that you're having, and I'd be able to best guide you on what route to take. And we offer different versions of the reset as well. So there's one that has some one-on-one calls with me, and then there's one that also has some additional lab testing that we can do as well. And it really focuses on putting your health in your hands too. So there's a lot of learning modules you can do on your own. And once you pick what program that you want, you're going to get access to all of that. And you never lose access to that support either. So we have, some weekly calls that we do. You have that community that you're surrounded by, and you get an amazing, beautiful kit delivered to you that has everything that you need for the reset program in it. And I love the one-on-one calls, especially because that's when we can unpack more of those emotional traumas. We can unpack more of the places where you might feel a little bit blocked or stuck and release that energy around that. So you're able to push through that reset even faster. So it's a 10-week program. People usually see 5 to 10 pounds of weight loss in the first week alone. And not a lot of people, maybe if weight loss isn't your thing, there are still benefits to doing it to reducing inflammation. And you might not think you need to lose weight. I didn't do it for weight loss and I lost 7 pounds in the first week. And I was like, oh, that was a little more than I realized. So you might not even know how much better you can feel until you do feel better. So we go through the kits. There's everything in there that you need. And we, essentially hold your hand along the way and guide you and teach you how to live a healthier lifestyle and how to be healthy for life for not only you, we help you create a healthier home. We help you, up level your family's health as well.
Yeah, a lot of it is really, I feel like, stuff we should have probably known our entire lives, and now we're blessed to get to know it at any age. It's never too late. And I think of it as a program that has a lot of collateral benefit to other family members who are involved, especially if you're all living under the same roof, because everyone's health improves by the food choices that are being made, the environmental choices that are being made, even things like the type of lighting that you use in the home, the way you breathe, as you mentioned, the way you connect with nature, the type of water you drink, the type of cleaning products you use. A lot of programs, when people think metabolism, they just think weight gain and weight loss, calories in, calories out. And, if that's your goal, then certainly there's programs that if all you want to do is count calories, you can do that on your own.
Right.
But if that was going to work, if information alone and calorie counting alone was the answer, we would have resolved all the health challenges that people have. Obesity would not be a thing. But
Right.
really, what is the answer is finding out the root cause that's tethering you to your past or not allowing you to have that breakthrough. So that's the emotional, decoding that you help people do. Then it's the environment, which activates either our dormant DNA or helps us activate the DNA for healing. And then regulating our nervous system, which puts us in the right state so that we can heal and repair and regenerate. And then I know you also, do some tracking with Aura with your clients to help them understand with a short feedback loop, how things are changing over a period of time. And you can also experiment with different behaviors to see what works and what doesn't. And then you
Yep.
mentioned something about weight loss, which I want to touch on. If you don't have weight to lose, even better, because what you can tap into is you can go a layer deeper and you can tap into senescent cells. So these are zombie cells in your body that are gobbling up resources and energy, but are not functioning to their highest capability. So people who don't have weight to lose still have health benefits to gain from some of the fasting protocols that we put people on and so on and so forth. So there's benefits across the board,
Yep.
whether you're looking for peak performance, whether you're looking for just feeling good and normal again, right? There's something
Mhm.
in here for everyone, and it's not one of those things where you just do once and you never do it again. You have a formula, a recipe so that if you ever feel like, hey, I just need to reset again, you know exactly what to do to get back on track. So it gives people a good blueprint to live by, and improve their short-term and their long-term quality of health.
And it's a blueprint that you can keep forever. I mean, it's such foundational things that you're going to be able to implement this for years to come as well. And I love that you mentioned that, you can do the reset more than once. Is I try to do the reset at least twice a year because it does just get your body back on track. It resets everything and just, holds that accountability again. Because I'd like to say we're all perfect, but we're not. I know I'm not. And sometimes you fall off the bandwagon a little bit and it just pulls you back in to be able to reset again.
Yeah, and it gives you that structure. I think what a lot of people are lacking is structure, accountability, visibility, right? We're oftentimes fighting our own battles internally and invisibly. We don't feel seen, we don't feel heard. And going through a program like this, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel acknowledged. Their needs are being met. They're being, handheld as much as they want to through the process. And the ultimate thing that's really cool about this is they're getting to experience their own medicine, right? All of us are our own, elixir or fountain of youth. We just have to get rid of the things that are interfering with that expression, or things that are creating toxicity in our lives, whether it be stress or chemicals or emotions. And we need to, create sufficiency, right? We need to get enough sunlight, enough time in nature, enough hugs, right? Enough smiles, enough, compliments, like all those things, make a huge difference when it comes to expressing ourselves. And this
And
program
for
encapsulates all of that.
And for me, each round of the reset has been a different journey. Like the first one, it was like getting rid of the inflammation and, shifting to parasympathetic. The next one, it was about, up leveling my health. So each round just gives you a whole different experience. I can't say that it's been the same every single round for me. It's been a completely different journey, and I've loved every one of them.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's that old proverb, right? You never step in the same river twice,
Yes,
because it's the same river by name, but the river is different. It's
yep,
different since you stepped in it last, and you're different since you stepped in it last. And something like this allows you to peel back the layers. And like you said, you do it twice a year. I do it twice a year as well, and it brings me back to center, so to speak. And I know you're pretty good about your day-to-day routine. I'm really good about my day-to-day routine. However, it's always good to have that structured approach where you're really getting dialed in, and
yep,
we don't live in a perfect world, so to speak, right? We all have stressors as much as we know, and as much as we can kind of recenter ourselves. We all have stressors. We all have travel. We all have family. We have, family engagements and parties and all kinds of stuff that comes our way.
yep.
And having this formula helps us get back to center when we need to, and do some deeper healing, which I think twice a year is quite sufficient. And for some people, they might need it once a quarter.
Right.
Some people might need it twice a year, depending on where they're at with their health.
Hmm.
However, I do know that it works every single time, and a new kind of cheat code is unlocked every time you do it.
It is. And I love that you mentioned like holidays and parties because some of my ladies that have gone through the reset during, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, that stretch, they are so grateful they did because they feel so much better. And you get to New Year's and you're like, oh, I don't have to make a resolution that I'm not going to keep anyways because I'm already dead. So the transformation in those ladies was amazing last year when they did it around the holiday time.
Yeah, having that structure really helps. Having that awareness, that structure, the guidance, the coaching, especially that time of year. Some people either completely check out,
Hmm.
and they're like, "Oh,
Give up.
I'll do this in the new year," and then they never do. And then some people completely check in, and they're like, "I want to get a head start on this, and I'm
Mm.
not, because my health is important and valuable to me. I'm not going to kick the can until next year to do
Right.
something about it, because they probably should have done something last year about it, right? And
Right.
and so why wait?"
And it is sometimes easy to just like push yourself off and put yourself on the back burner, but it's way easier to invest in your health while you still have it versus waiting till it's gone and then you're doing anything to get it back.
Hmm. What if people told you that's different about this approach? Because I know people who come to you, you're not their first practitioner, right? It's not their first
Yeah.
rodeo in trying to address these issues. What's the feedback that you get? What makes it so different for them? And I'd love to hear what they say.
It's easy. Like
Mm.
it's got to be the easiest program I've ever done, or I've ever coached someone on because here's what you should be doing. Here's how you should do it. Here's what's going to help you even better. And we lay it all out. So that for moms, I feel like especially, they have their calendars, they have their lists, they have their schedules. This is something that can easily be incorporated in and they don't have to think about it because it's already done. So people come to me overwhelmed, and this helps take some of that overwhelm off because they don't have to think about how they're going to put it all together because it already is all together.
Mm. One thing that you've been very kind to share with me over the year and a half or maybe 2 years now that I've known you is frequencies.
Yes.
And so tell us, for people who are new to this concept, let's just approach this from a beginner's mind perspective. What are frequencies, and how do you assess for the appropriate frequency prescription that you're going to give to somebody, and what can people expect?
So I have a few different frequency machines that I utilize, and both of them use the tones in your voice. So we all have energy that we're putting out. We all have emotions that we're putting out. And oftentimes, especially moms, they're like, no, I'm fine. I need you to help my kid. This happens all the time. I need you to help my kid. I'm like, no, I need to help you first, and then we'll help your kid. So the energy we're putting out is the energy that's coming back. So with the tones in your voice, when I have you speak, this machine listens to the tones in your voice and it identifies high points and low points. So it's going to positive and negative things that are coming up. And then I give you music to listen to that helps balance out your nervous system. And this is unique to you based on the tones in your voice. So by listening to that music, it balances out the nervous system, helps shift you into that parasympathetic state. I can tell you, I personally do breath work while listening to my tones, and it just activates a whole new level of healing. And you can use frequencies to promote healing in the body. So we can go after different areas of illness, so to speak, that are coming up and promote healing frequencies in the body to promote healing and repair.
Yeah, one thing about frequency that's so fascinating, Nikolai Tesla was big on this, right? He says,
Mhm.
look to frequencies, everything vibrates. And, just like we can only see a certain spectrum of light, just the visible spectrum of light, we can only hear, the a certain spectrum of vibration, of sound. So anything above a certain frequency or below a certain frequency is making noise. We just can't hear it, right? Dogs
Right,
can hear different frequencies than humans, for example. So those
right.
sounds are being emitted. And, if you could see everything, you'd be blind. And if you could
Yep.
hear everything, you'd be deaf. So thankfully, we can't see
Yes.
all the light that's around us. And thankfully, we can't hear all the sounds and all the frequencies because literally, like, this phone is vibrating, right? All matter
Yep.
vibrates at a specific frequency.
Yep.
And so disease has a certain frequency to it, health has
Correct.
a certain frequency to it. And so my understanding is we're just balancing the frequencies in somebody's body. And what's cool about frequencies is once you identify a frequency, you can actually create a counter wave that
Yep.
neutralizes it.
Yep.
And that
So it's
happens instantaneously, right?
correct. It's, kind of like with like, right? Just like homeopathics too, we're bringing the body back into resonance. So if there's an area that's coming up as an issue, we're going to send another frequency to balance that out because we want to bring the body back into balance. Because when we're out of balance, that's what breeds disease. So we want to bring it back into balance. And we use that through specific frequencies that come up based on your scan. So it's all individualized to you. And for example, yesterday, my son, he's 3, he's like, Mom, I just want to do my frequencies. He was really sad. And I did his frequency scan, and the first one that showed up was sorrow. And I'm like, oh,
Mm.
that's on point. So we're resonating with that to help bring that sorrow back to balance.
So how does somebody scan their frequencies? You mentioned it's through voice. What is the exact process?
So I have my scanning device and I input your picture, I input your name, your birth date, and then we have you do your voice harmonics, they're called. And that's going to tune into your specific frequency because we are all energy. So we're energetic beings. And you can think of this like dialing into, a station on your radio. So where I live, if you go to 99.9, you're going to get country. So if I'm dialing into your frequency, I'm going to get you. So we do the frequency scan. It shows areas of importance that are coming up. And then I can balance out those areas with different frequencies depending on what comes up for you. So every scan is different because we are different at every point in the day. I could scan you in the morning, it's going to be one thing. Well, you've had different stressors and different things you were exposed to throughout the day. So if I scan you in the evening, it is going to be different at that point.
It's kind of like stepping in the river, right? It's going to be different
There you
every
go.
time, right?
Yep.
So how often, like, would people have their own scanner and scan themselves, or would they be contacting you as their practitioner? What does that process look like long term for somebody?
So I do offer both options. So if you want guidance throughout the process, I do have options where we would meet weekly and I could give you, more frequencies to listen to each week. Or I can even set you up to get your own scanner and then you'd be able to scan at home. So it's just going to kind of depend on where your level is at, what you want to learn, what you want to dive into. So I've had people, I walk them through the process for a while and then they might get their own scanner as well.
Yeah, seems like it could be a great home-based healing tool for people, right? Because the kids
Yep.
can benefit. It's non-invasive.
It's
I
and it's
would.
easy, right?
Mhm.
You're talking and you're pushing a few buttons and it's scanning you and telling you what's going on. It's a hack for your body. And I know like you love the Aura Ring as a hack for your body. This is another hack and internal insight for your body that you can also promote healing with as well.
Yeah, and the Aura Ring is measuring, whereas
Oh,
this is altering, right? It's
yes.
creating it's
Yeah.
creating a shift, as opposed to just documenting the shift. And it'd be interesting to see, how people's data on their Aura Ring changes, pre and post scans, because you're getting
Oh,
kind of real time information in terms of the state of one's nervous system throughout the day on their resilience meter, right? So you can
yeah. I
perhaps
might have
even
to do it
document
more.
it. And that'd be kind of interesting for them to
Yeah.
see, like, hey, my stress was always high. And now that I'm doing this, I'm, recovering from stress much easier, or I'm not carrying around as much stress as I used to be.
That's huge. And even just the people we surround ourselves with. So my children daycare was off for a while, so they were bouncing around with different people watching them, and you could just see their stress was through the roof. And I work on them, but sometimes when you're close to people, it's hard to energetically work on them. So this gave me a tool to be able to release that energy around them as well and help bring them back into balance faster after, chaotic energy.
Yeah, and the one thing I like about kids is they don't lie,
No,
right? So if you do something and they don't feel better, they're not going to tell you they feel better if they don't,
right.
right?
And my kids beg for frequencies. So I'm like, clearly it works because they beg for it. They're like, Mom, I just want my frequencies now. They wake up in the morning, we do their frequencies. So that's
That's
awesome.
awesome. Seems like a tool that everyone needs, right? The world would
Yes.
be a better place if everyone had their own scanning device and scanned themselves each morning and got dialed in.
Yes, we need all vibrating at a higher vibration. And that brings the whole vibration up in the world because we're all energetically connected.
There you go. Um, I've asked you a ton of questions, but is there or are there any questions I haven't asked that you wish more people would ask you?
Hmm. Listen to, I guess, just encouraging people to listen to that voice in your head. If you're feeling stuck and you feel like you should be doing something about it, do something about it and listen and don't wait for someone else to tell you or something else to tell you. Just trust that intuition to take care of yourself.
Mm. Why do you feel people give up? Like, I know you work with a lot of moms,
Hmm.
and if they're anything like the moms and dads that we work with, they're at some point ready to throw in the towel, or maybe afraid of starting something new, or skeptical because they've been promised the moon and the sun and the stars, and
Hmm.
nothing has seemed to work for them. What would you say to that person?
I'd say try it anyways. I actually had a mom that did this and she's like, I've spent, tens of thousands of dollars on other programs. What makes yours different? I said, because it's with me. And she had been seeing me, in the past. And she's like, okay, I trust you. And she did it. And she finally released the weight that she had been trying to for years. So you need to find the right person that you resonate with too as well, whether that's me or someone else, that's fine, but you need to make sure you find who you resonate with because that's what's going to help make a true difference because they're going to be your right guide throughout that season in your life.
I think that's really important, is finding the right somebody you can really, deeply resonate with, right? It's kind of
Mhm.
staying in the wheelhouse of frequency. There's got to be a resonance and
Mhm.
connection there. And even the same program, like if Brianna and I offer a very similar program, you might connect with her more than me, or vice versa, right? You have to
Mhm.
find the person that kind of acts as your complement and somebody who you can see being vulnerable with, accountable with, and
Mhm.
get coached by as well.
Right. Because that's a big piece of the puzzle to find someone you resonate with. Because if you don't resonate with them, you're gonna block out that healing. You can block out your own healing and you might not even realize that you're doing it.
Hmm. What are some of your favorite lessons that you've taken away from the program? Perhaps for yourself, like as you've gone through it several times, you mentioned.
Well, I know one thing that moms could probably start today is sit down when you eat. That was something that, was a huge takeaway for me is I never sat down, I never stopped moving. And in order to shift to that parasympathetic state, you got to sit down, you got to relax, you got to slow down. And we often think we have to do more, to get better. We have to do more to do this and do more and more and more, when in reality, you need to do less. So it is about doing less in a way of you're slowing down and you're calming down.
Yeah, it is a bit of a surrender process, right?
Mhm.
To feel like, most times we think, okay, to get more done, I've got to do more. But,
Yep.
the body is kind of a paradoxical in that sense, is the less we do, the more we heal.
Right.
Assuming we're doing the right things when we
Right.
are, on, but all our healing takes place when we're at rest, not when
Yep.
we're, on the go. And it's kind of like a simple analogy would be your car. Imagine trying to repair your car while you're driving it down the highway, right?
I love
Like
that analogy.
it's like impossible. You'd have a
Yeah.
mechanic like, trying to hang on for his life. There'd be somebody underneath the car, like, going along for the ride. I mean, could you imagine that? And that's what most people
Right.
think, right? They're
Well, and it's not what we're taught. Like that's part of the problem, right? Like, oh, here, take this so you can keep going. No one tells you, hey, go take a nap.
hmm,
Like, hey, go sit down. So, and sometimes moms do that too. They're like, I feel like I want to take a nap. I said, then do it. Like, take a nap. That's your body signaling it needs to calm down. It needs to shift.
yeah, so true, so true. And I feel like when people go through this process, the thing that they learn, the magic that they learn is about who they are, right? And they know what buttons to push to get a predictable, return on their effort. Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like most people are willing to put in the effort, they're willing to put in the time, they're willing to put in the investment, but they kind of get burnt out when things don't work or
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot harder or more complicated than they think. And what I love about the reset is that it's a series of really simple things that you do throughout the day
Mm-hmm.
that you help people raise awareness around. And once they realize, hey, I'm already doing these things, but now I'm doing them with awareness, right? I'm already breathing, but now I'm breathing with awareness. I'm already thinking, but I'm thinking with awareness. I was already pooping, but now I'm pooping in the right position with more
Right.
awareness, right?
Right.
Or some things are even passive, right? Like changing
Right.
your bed sheets or
Yep.
changing the type of clothing that you wear or sitting outside versus inside. I mean, these things can be very small shifts that you do that can make a profound difference in the way you function. And most of these things that we share with people don't cost them anything or might be a
No.
small initial investment if you go from polyester bed sheets to cotton or linen bed sheets, but that's going to be something that lasts you for years and years and years
Mm-hmm.
versus, just delegating our health to a supplement bottle which runs out every 30 days and may or may not even be the right thing for us.
And that's why I resonate so well with this is when I found the reset, I was sick of throwing supplements at people. I'm like, here, take this for this and this for this and this for this. And before you know it, people are on 5 to 7 things and they still don't feel good. And I'm like, this isn't working. Like you're not eating the things you're supposed to be eating. Like it just wasn't a well-rounded situation. And I found the reset and I'm like, holy smokes, this is exactly everything laid out that people need. And back to the basics, which is what I was trying to shift everyone to, from the start. So once again, the energy we put out is the energy that comes back. And that's when I found the reset, which was amazing.
Yeah, it's almost like one way to look at it. It's like God's plan,
Mhm.
right? Like it's just the roadmap that, you know, we should have been given at some point in our life. And now it's available to people to incorporate. And what's really beautiful about it is that it works, especially with people who feel like they've tried everything. It
Yes.
works at any age because the principles are timeless. They're not just specific to a certain age group. It works for any sex and it works across any timeline. So whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, like the principles that we share and teach are going to be, timeless and going to last you for years and years and years to come once you know this information about yourself. I know there's also a couple other things that you look at from a testing standpoint, which you highlighted, which maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that. There's like literally thousands of tests that a practitioner can choose from. What are the tests that you use as part of your program and why?
So we can look at the DNA testing. So this is looking at your individual genetics. This might be things, what's impacting your sleep, when should you be eating? What kind of food should you be eating? What diet plan should be for you after the reset is over? And genetically wise. So this is a test that you only run once because your genetics aren't necessarily going to change. It also shows deficiencies that you might be deficient in. So, for example, in myself, choline was huge. And so I know that might need to incorporate in a little bit more choline than, say somebody else. So looking at those genetic factors. And then we also look at the food inflammation tests because I don't want you going through the entire reset. And I did this myself, actually. I didn't do this test until after I was done with my first round and raspberries came up. I ate raspberries all the time. And I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't be eating that. So if you do that before, then you're going to know what foods you should stay away from versus trying to figure out like, hey, what's still triggering this inflammation and, picking one food at a time. And then there's also a gut barrier panel that we look at to see is there leaky gut going on? And the cool thing about that one is we can do it before and after the reset. So I have seen people go from, being red in their gut panel to turning green, being in the good after the reset, having that leaky gut seal up.
Yeah, the nuances in terms of food is quite interesting. I had a lady, she just messaged me yesterday. I did a check-in with her, and we run this food inflammation panel on our clients as well. It's a little bit different than a sensitivity panel. We're looking at what's actually triggering an inflammatory response. And we for her, eggs was on the list,
Mm.
and gluten. So those were two big things on her list. There was a few other things that weren't a big deal for her to remove, but by cutting out the eggs and the gluten, the pain and aches that she had completely disappeared. And
Mhm.
she would have never associated those foods because we're told eggs are good for us. And while they can be, for
Yep.
some people, they can be they can be something that's causing a low grade chronic inflammatory state and preventing them from feeling their best. And while they might be doing all the other things right, this one food could be sabotaging the outcome that they're looking for.
Yep. And I do see that too. Like, I had a client who did a discovery call with me, and she's like, I eat healthy, I eat organic, I grow my own food, I'm doing all the things, I exercise, but I can't lose weight. Well, she's now about 2 weeks into the reset and she's down 10 pounds. So you might be thinking you're doing all the right things, but there's something clearly missing if you're still not getting the outcome that you want. So this gives you a different approach that you might not have tried before as well.
Yeah, I think it's important that people realize the level to which this can be customized,
Hmm.
but in a very simple way, right? It's not
Yeah.
like running 800 labs and then having, 800,000 like data points to work with, and then a million different supplements that you have to choose from. We're really helping people understand who they are. That's what I love about the DNA test. It's like you and I are different models, right? So we're different cars, so to speak, which means that I'm going to have a different user manual than you, while the
Hmm.
rules of the road are going to be the same and the general kind of parts are going to be the same, but how to unlock the greatest potential from that car or to know all the little features and buttons and where to push is going to be different for each person. So once you have that user manual for yourself, one, you have more self-awareness in terms of where you're going to get the biggest return on energy investment and financial investment and time investment. And you have an unfair advantage as a practitioner to know exactly what buttons to push and which ones not to push. And
Yep.
then in combination with all the other things we've talked about, you really have a massive healing opportunity for someone that, you know, in essence guarantees that they're going to get better. Like there's almost,
Hmm.
and as you said, like everyone that you've taken through the program has had breakthroughs with their health.
Yeah. It's been the only program I've ever offered in my life that I can say that for because
Mm.
you follow what it says and you get a breakthrough almost right away.
I love it. Now, just like most things in life, while this could probably help everybody, it's not for everybody.
Mm.
Uh, who do you think is not a good fit for this process?
Mm. You have to want it. So if you don't want it, it's not going to work. So I say this sometimes with husbands, the wives really want them to do it and they don't want to. And they might, she might try and force them and he doesn't want to. You're not going to get results that way. So you have to be open to healing, be open to trying something new, make sure that energy is open or your body isn't going to safely say, "Hey, I can release this."
Yeah, I think that's important. The buy-in, right? And the first person you have to be sold on is yourself.
Yes.
You have to see yourself as worthy of receiving this gift that you're going to give to yourself. You have to see your family and people around you worthy of receiving the gift of you being the best version of yourself. And I think for me, the clients that I coach, and perhaps this might be relevant to anyone's listening to this, um, I love working with people who come to the realization that they can't be a nine. It's not about being perfect. So I'm going to say they can't be a 9 out of 10, father, husband, spouse, whatever the case may be, if they have 7 out of 10 health.
Right.
And the difference between 7 and 9 isn't 2 points, it's actually logarithmic. So the difference between 7 and 8 is 10, which means the difference between 7 and 9 is 100. So you're going to get 100-fold ROI when you jump up to those, to going from, 7 to a 9, which means that everyone around you is going to get 100 times better version of you showing up in their lives as well.
And you emit light. Like the women that I see, I do have some in my local community here, and I'll see them out and about, and you can just see them radiating light, where before it was almost like they were just like hunched down, like this dark cloud. They were not have didn't have any energy, and now they've gone through the reset and they're just radiating light to everyone around them. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the name is awesome because it means so many different things, right? Lightness as far as just getting rid of things that aren't serving us. And
Mhm.
we look at, the way I look at that is that for some people that's going to be weight, right? Because the weight is just, and here's the thing about weight, you're not losing the weight, you're activating your potential because stored body fat is just potential energy. And when somebody has extra weight that they're carrying around with them, they just have unused potential. So this
Mm.
program just liberates that potential that they have, right? So they could, utilize it in a good way, in a positive way. So it's lightness in that regard. It's lightness in our emotional health. Many of us are carrying rocks in our back, mental backpack, so to speak, and we're carrying all this excess baggage that doesn't serve us. So we work on eliminating and getting rid of that. We get to live light in the sense that we're radiating. All of us produce light.
Mhm.
We produce heat and we produce infrared light. And we produce about the equivalent amount of a 100-watt light bulb just at rest. So imagine a 100-watt light bulb, on the top of your head glowing. That's how much energy you're producing. So you are creating, this light and emitting this light. And we do see shifts in people's auras, right? We see
Oh yeah.
their skin glowing. I know people who can read auric fields. If you could do Kirlian photography, you'd see people's
Yep.
fields changing when they do this program. And even strangers notice. It's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
amazing when
And like animals and they'll come up to you as well.
mm, and they don't lie either, right?
Oh, and with the auras, my energetic scanner looks at auras as well. So I can do an aura scan before, do the frequency work and do an aura scan after, and you can see that energetic change in a person just in a matter
Mm.
of a few minutes. So you can change your aura pretty fast if you're up leveling well.
Yeah. So this program just really, I love it. It encapsulates so much. It basically leaves nothing to chance. And it again activates the medicine that all of us have that we brought to this world and into this lifetime. And it allows us to experience it for ourselves. And then, when we heal ourselves, we light that candle, so to speak, inside us so that we could light the candle inside others. And it's from that place that we can be of greatest service to our families, our communities, to humanity. And I know you and I both believe that that's probably what the world needs now more than ever.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. There needs to be more of us in the world lighting everybody up.
I love that. Brianna, this has been very enlightening, no pun intended. I would love for you to share how can people connect with you? how can they get into your world, into your ecosystem, into your ether, and perhaps even connect with you and dive all in if they choose to?
Yeah, I would love that. So you can go to cleanlifefamily.com. There is a spot to book a call on there, or you can reach out to me on Facebook. It's at Brianna Lofquist, and you'll be able to reach out to me on Facebook on there. And I do have a morning routine guide that you can download and get started today to be able to start up leveling your morning routine starting tomorrow, depending on what time zone you're in. So you can start that right now.
Yeah, the morning routine's a great place for people to start. It's just like it gives you an instant boost in your day, in your week, in your month, and it just activating parts of you that might be dormant, right?
And
And
it's
when
doable. You can habit stack, right? You don't have to like finish morning routine number one to go to number two. You can go outside, you can ground, and you can get sunlight all at the same time. So you can do a
right,
lot of things at once in just a few minutes. That's going to change the start of your day.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Brianna. I appreciate you. Appreciate all the work that you're doing to help people. The birds, I think there's a hawk flying over me. It even agrees, if you could hear that.
The
And
energy is there.
the energy's there. Exactly. I'll be sure to share all the links in the show notes so people have it.
Awesome.
And yeah, just really looking forward to continuing to deepen our friendship and just witness the magic that you're putting out there in the world. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thank you, Sachin. It's always a pleasure meeting with you and getting your insights on everything. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.